Welcome to GRC Chats. Today our guest is Carol Williams. Carol, we are familiar with you being part of our podcast. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Likewise. Well, some of our audience might already know you, but for those that might not, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So, obviously, my name is Carol Williams. I am the CEO of Strategic Decision Solutions. We are an enterprise risk management consulting firm helping companies really use ERM as a competitive advantage and enabling their success.
Sounds good. So with that, what are we discussing today?
I thought that it would be great for us to talk about monitoring and really thinking about the different aspects that ERM really should be monitoring when it comes to the bigger ecosystem of risk in the company.
Sounds good. Of course, we talk often about ERM related topics, so this time let's talk about monitoring. What are some key things, well, if you were to go a bit more in depth?
So if you want to picture it almost like a bullseye, and you can have the really minute area, very detailed area in the middle, that one's going to be your action plans. Anytime you have a risk that needs to have action taken on it, of course, you're going to need to have somebody do something about it. So you have your action plans to monitor. So that's going to be in the very middle. You can expand from that and say, well, we need to also monitor the risks. Especially the key risks, because you can't keep an eye on everything, but the key risks to the organization. But even with that, you need to be monitoring the objectives and the risks that those are linked to, right? So you've got your objectives. What is the company trying to achieve? What are their high priorities for both the business, which link back to their mission, and then their strategic objectives, linking back to their vision? So are they on track to achieve those within the time frame that they want to achieve them? And then you're monitoring the risk to those objectives. Um, that's where, as you kind of build that, you've got your objectives, you've got your risk to those objectives, and then you've got the action plans associated with the risks that need action. So then as you go one more layer out, you've got your context, and that is both internal and external context, the environment in which the company is operating. So, both the culture, any process changes, big system changes, leadership changes, anything like that is your internal context. External context can include regulatory, the political environment, economics, all the usual, if you think about a pestle, the usual things that are considered external competition included. So, outside as you go in, all of those things should encompass the things that ERM is monitoring.
Sounds good. And would you say that, monitoring is, often overlooked by the organizations, or do you know anything that is, that they should be improving on in that regard?
Well, I do think the tools that are used and the mechanisms of monitoring are definitely something that get simplified too much, to where they aren't helpful for the business, or the process that it takes for all of the risk identification, the assessment, and all of the other pieces that get up to the reporting. A lot of times companies stop with the reporting, and then the next thing you know, it's time to start all over again. And there hasn't been any actual monitoring going on. And so how do you know that there's even anything that's changed that's even worth going through the whole exercise all over again? Monitoring should be going on all the time, and that should be driving the timing of when you do the activities within ERM at a company.
Mm, Great. And with that, so there's a lot of things I think the risk managers or, board or decision makers, they need to, like be a bit more involved, I imagine, with the monitoring, all of them, I think, in that regard. So with that being said, what would be, some things that like when they are doing this monitoring continuously, from what I understand, what should be the first things that they should be, like looking into, like, they don't know how to do it or they don't know where to start.
So the first thing would be for your objectives and for your key risks, you should have an actual business metric that you are monitoring, whether it's an internal metric or an external metric. There's something for you to be um, looking at to see what is the trend. Is the trend in a positive manner? Then there's no action per se that's needed. You continue doing what you're doing now. Everything's golden, and executives love to hear that, right? To hear from risk, everything's good. What we're seeing is good. Just keep going. You're doing great. That's not very often that ERM gets to say that, or has said it in the past, is what I should say. So, that kind of helps with that reputation of ERM isn't always here to say no. We're
Mhm.
here to enable and to encourage the business. So why not? So you definitely having those metrics in place will be a key aspect of the monitoring. On the action plans, that really gets to, well, when an action plan is created, you should have, well, who's responsible for the action? What are the milestones? What are timelines that you're expected to take? Check in with that person who's responsible, hold them accountable, and see are they hitting the timelines that they said that they would. Um, so when you have all of those details, you have something to monitor. If you don't collect those details, what are you supposed to monitor? So it's all about setting ERM up for success too, is really what it comes down to, right?
Great. So with that, I have one last question, and that is, do you have any, like maybe takeaway points, like quick to summarize it, or anything else you'd like to add on?
Yeah, I would say don't try to monitor too much. Baby steps are important. So start with a couple key things that are easy enough to add on to what you're already doing. I'm very much a fan of don't feel like you have to go from 0 to 60 in a very short time frame because it's not just you that's not ready, the business isn't ready. So add on over time and that will set you up for success. And then don't overcomplicate it. Really keeping it simple is going to be the key.
Mm, Thank you. And with that, as I said, that was all my questions. So I want to thank you once again, Carol, for joining us once again. So yeah, I always enjoy our podcast together, and I hope to, see you in another episode.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you as well. Have a great day.
You too.